Hi cuties, stick to the end for an announcement. Hi cuties! I know, it's been a while since I've done a vlog. We're here, we're vlogging, and it's December. Because I've been doing NaNoWriMo for basically the past 2 months, I did all my prep during October and I wrote over 100,000 words. That's right. But that also meant I wasn't reading as much. So between both October and November, I read only 12 books, which is pathetic for me. Not for you, for me. Given that in September, I think I read 18. So yeah, I read 5 in October and 7 in November. Yikes. So anyway, let's get to reviewing those books. The very first book that I read in October was Sea Witch by Sarah Henning. So going into this, I thought this was a full-on Little Mermaid retelling. Lo and behold, it's not really. It's kind of like prequel Ursula, but it's so much more complicated. And at first, like, it was okay and la la la, and I wasn't really getting into it very much, but the ending got me good. Definitely want to read the sequel, Sea Witch Rising, which is out now, and that's gonna be more Little Mermaid. Of all, like, fairy tale kind of villains, Ursula's one of my faves. My only, like, you know, fat girl representation that you get out there. And she's amazing, and I constantly will sing Poor Unfortunate Souls all the time, because I work in retail. This was really good. I was really happy with the twists. I definitely would recommend it. It kicked off my Spooky Witch October, which I wanted to read so much more, and I just didn't. I did read this as an audiobook. I definitely recommend this is an audiobook. You'll find a lot of this month was audiobook because I couldn't sit down and read a book to save my life. Speaking of another audiobook, I read The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. I thought I owned a copy of this book. Apparently I don't. This was very different than what I thought it was going to be. It was the story of 4 siblings. It starts you off as their children and they meet a fortune teller who tells each of them when they're going to die. Find out that all the kids are gonna die at different parts in their life, some very young, some very old. It kind of divides the book into 4 different parts. So you start with one kid, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, and it takes you kind of through certain decades. We go through the AIDS crisis. We go through like big Vegas showbiz. Then we deal with 9/11 or the aftermath of 9/11, and then basically up to modern day where the last sibling still has some years to go. It's a very interesting read. It wasn't something that I enjoyed too much because it is an adult fiction book, which you know me, I'm not really into adult fiction because it deals a lot with sex, drugs, alcohol, smoking, stuff I'm not into. It did heavily involve that, but it was in a way that worked. So if you like looking into like the psyche of this and knowing when you're gonna die and how you're gonna live your life through that, it's very interesting. I do recommend it. It just isn't something that I would probably pick up again because it was so heavily coded in adult themes, and it drives me a little bit, you know, it's not my full cup of tea. It was pretty good though. I did enjoy the audiobook. I don't know why I'm talking like that right now, but there we go. Next book I did get to read a physical book was Now Entering Adamsville by Francesca Zappia. The 3rd Zappia book to grace us with its presence. Here's the thing. This is very different than other Zappia books. If you've read Made You Up or Eliza and Her Monsters, those are much more contemporary. This has more urban fantasy vibes. I mean, it's an urban fantasy. And I loved that our main character was basically me. She's ace, she thinks dogs are better than people, and she likes Fruity Pebbles. It's me. She's awesome. She's basically a demon hunter, or these things called fire starters, and her mom has been missing from the fire starters, and she and her mom have this secret of fighting them off, while her older sister does not really know about this, nor does her dad. Her dad is in jail because he conned the whole town. It's a super happy, functional family story. She has a cousin who's like a super prep, but also super into the paranormal. And there is a kind of Ghost Adventures-esque crew coming to investigate the town because there was a fire in the beginning and somebody died. It's very fun and very good. And again, it's very different, which is why I think a lot of people aren't liking it as much. Personally, this is my favorite Zappia book so far, and it's hard to beat Eliza and Her Monsters because that's a really good book. For her first delve into the urban fantasy world, this is great. And it might not be a standalone. I think we're gonna get a sequel. I really hope we get a sequel because I love Zora. And what's even cooler is you get illustrations of some of the characters. So there's me right there. There's me in high school. That's me junior year. So Francesca Zappia, if you're out there and watching this video for some odd reason, I love your writing and you've inspired me a lot. Next up, I read another audiobook of a book that I own and got in Ireland, which is The Wolves of Willoughby Chase by Joan Aiken. I did not like this very much because here's the thing. We've got wolves here. It's called The Wolves of Willoughby Chase. The last incident we see of these wolves is like in the first chapter. Where are the wolves? I thought there was gonna be more wolves. I thought the nanny was a werewolf. When I picked this up, I thought there was so much more going on with this, and it's more like just struggling orphan child book. So it disappointed me because I thought this was going to be more spooky, and it ended up being much more like Oliver. It felt more like a Charles Dickens book, which I'm not a huge Dickens fan. I'm sorry, he's kind of boring. It also didn't really make sense. Yes, this is more of a middle grade book, and again, a classic, because this was first published in 1962. Just didn't really like it. This is where I start getting into a reading slump is here. To continue with the spoopy theme, I finally got to a book that I've been meaning to read for years. It's literally been on my shelf for at least 2 years, and that is And the Trees Crept In by Dawn Kurtagich. This is how you do a spooky read and an audiobook. So it's super spooky in here anyway. They've got a bunch of like notes and stuff, and the way that the narration is, let me find a good, just that sinking line or something. There's like, you know, these big text points, very visually stimulating, but it's so good as an audiobook. Highly recommend getting this. I read this on the Libby app. You can read along and kind of get it, but there's these points. You get these broken book entries here, and you see these words that are kind of highlighted here. So while the narration is going for the entry, there's like a whispering background, which is those highlighted words, and it's super creepy. And the way that the voice actress says the word creek, it's super creepy. Oh my god, guys, if you want a good spooky read this book. And some people complained about the ending. Granted, it was not where I thought this was going. Pulled a good twist on me. And yeah, I would have liked to see it end a little bit differently, but for what it did, so good. Read this book, guys. So those were my 5 October books. Now moving into November. My camera battery dies. Battery replaced. Moving into November, I kind of did a buddy read with one of my coworkers who is really obsessed with Wildwood by Colin Meloy. This book, again, I have owned, unhauled, and owned again. Now, owned it a long time ago before I moved to Japan and then had to sell all my stuff to move to Japan. Have it again. And this is an autographed copy. Hell yeah, it is. Read this as an audiobook. I do not recommend the audiobook. It was not done well. I did not like the sound of the narrator's voice, and I thought she was way too close to the microphone. It had this kind of interference constantly that was very annoying, and this is like a 12-hour audiobook. It's a very big book, so that really hindered my enjoyment of this book. This is a very Narnia-esque book in the sense that, like, I said that about like The Light Between Worlds, and that has a whole different theme to it. This is a straight up kids go into foreign land, there are talking animals, and they're there to save the day against an evil girl, an evil woman. I gave it it was kind of mediocre for me. I think if I do continue reading this book, I will read it physically. I don't have my second book because I lent it to said friend, but there is no further audiobook on my app for it either. Not that I want to listen to that narrator again. It does leave us in a spot where like it could just be its own book, but it does go on to 2 more books, both long. I did like Prue as a main character. I thought she was a strong young girl. I did think that her whole parents storyline was stupid. I didn't like that part. Because then they don't do anything. Like, it's her parents' fault that all of this is happening and they don't do anything. You'd think they would, but they don't. Wildwood. The next book I read as an ebook, and then I went out and bought the book because it was so freaking good! And that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. Oh my god. You guys, I love this. I love this book. I am so glad there's a sequel. I'm also mad there's a sequel that I now have to wait for. This was really good. If you are waiting for a new, like, historical fantasy and you're not getting one that's good, this one. Read this one. It involves a witch and a chasseur, who is kind of like a holy knight, who are forced into marriage. And she's hiding the fact that she's a witch, and he's got to stick up his butt. And it's so cute. It's so good. I was kind of worried going into this, like, I don't know how I feel about these characters having to be married, and then I'm like, oh no, it's good. It's that good. It does have some steamier parts to it. Was not expecting that. It is a YA read. One of the many book snakes of the year, and this one is living its best life. Read it. I need you to go, and I need you to read it, because it's really good. Please read it and talk to me about it. Thank you. Next up, I did another audiobook. You'll find I'll do a lot of audiobooks. Like I said, didn't lie about that. I listened to Toil and Trouble, which is edited by Jessica Spotswood and Tess Sharp. There are like 15-ish, 13, 14, yes, 15 authors of these short stories all about witchery, basically. Some I loved, some I didn't love, some were mediocre. Thing is, I'm not a big short story reader. I don't like them because they're short and I want more. And that's how I felt about a lot of these stories. I wanted more. A lot of them ended in places that I thought were terrible places to end. The ones that I loved, The Truth About Queenie, Legend of Stone Mary was really good. Daughters of Baba Yaga, The Well Witch, like, can I please have a full Well Witch book? Love Spell, which was by Anna Marie McLemore, one of my favorite authors. And The Garen Girls. Garen Girls was really good too. The Garen Girls could have easily been a full-length novel. I did really enjoy this. I just am not a huge fan of short stories, which is why it doesn't get a 5-star rating from me. There are plenty of like 5-star stories in here. If they would just write them into a big story, please. A full-length novel for like half of the stories in here. But if you want to see some good witchy story and different ways to interpret witchcraft, check it out. The next 2 books I read were part of a trilogy, which I have not finished because the audiobook for the 3rd book does not exist. And it's annoying. So this trilogy is The Curse Workers by Holly Black, starting with White Cat and Red Glove. Blackheart did not exist on the Libby app, and I'm like, why do you do that to me, you know? I do own the 3rd book, so I could just read it, maybe. I don't know if I will, though. I didn't really like this too much. It was good. It was kind of like, meh. Holly Black writes better stuff. Obviously, Holly Black has her whole Cruel Prince stories going on, and I thoroughly enjoyed Darkest Part of the Forest by her, which is unfortunately a standalone, but this is the series where she doesn't write about fairies, basically. Everybody has to wear gloves, which I'm like, ugh, I hate wearing gloves. But that's because of these curse workers, and there are people who are emotional workers, there are death workers, there are physical workers. This story follows a boy named Castle. He's a non-curse worker in a curse worker family, and he thinks he killed his best friend, so he's, you know, holding on to that guilt. It's definitely kind of a wild ride. I do like the 1st book more than I liked Red Glove. The downside of this audiobook is that it's read by Jesse Eisenberg. I am not a fan of Jesse Eisenberg very much, especially in audiobook. Like, I do not like the sound of his voice. If this is who I'm supposed to imagine is the main character, Jesse Eisenberg's voice coming from this, just, nope. Not sure how I feel about that. Actually, I do know I don't like it. I may read the 3rd book. I may not, just because it's not that compelling of a trilogy for me. Yeah, is what I say about that. And the last audiobook of the month, The Passion of Dulce by Julie Berry. This book surprised the hell out of me. Kind of historical fiction. It's 13th century, which we do not get a lot of books set in the 1200s. I don't remember the last time I found a book set in the 1200s, post-Crusade, so there's still the church heavily seeking out heretics and burning them, basically. So the church thinks that Dulce is a heretic because she speaks with Jesus and thinks Jesus is her boyfriend. It was, you know, the 1200s. Girl's gonna get what girl's gonna get. It makes you think that Dulce is the main character. She's not. It's Batia. Batia is the middle sister of 3, these kind of barkeep ladies. Tavern wenches, that's what I'm looking for. So Dulce escapes her own burning and Batia finds her and takes her home. And then after a while, Dulce starts doing miracle work, basically, and healing people, and word gets around. So of course, the church finds her. It's more Batia's story than anything. Batia and her sisters and one of the guys all basically have to flee because they're all connected to Dulce. Everybody splits up, and then the very last parts of the book is kind of them, or Batia, living in hiding and then discovering what's happened to her family. It was a very different story. I enjoyed it a lot. And there's also some good historical notes. There's stuff from the author's research. Dulce is not a real historical person, but her characterization is based on real documents, basically, of these women who spoke with Jesus. I'm not explaining it very well. Recommend picking this up. It's pretty good. The audiobook also is not a full cast, but there's a lot of voice actors. But very good audiobook. Highly recommend. Last book I read, which is, I guess, the second physical book that I read in 2 months. Adam Rippon's Beautiful on the Outside. He is a male figure skater. He was in the Olympics. He's also the first openly gay figure skater, which I know there's gonna be a bunch of people who are like, all the guys in figure skating are gay. No, for one, and he's the first openly gay one during his career. Here's the thing about Adam Rippon. He's not like superstar Olympic gold medalist Adam Rippon. He kind of stays in the middle zone for a lot of his career. He did win nationals. A lot of his story is about these more difficult times and kind of constantly being in the middle. So I really enjoyed it for that factor, because you see these like autobiographies of these like success stories and they're not very realistic, even though like these are obviously autobiographies and it happened to them. Adam's story feels way more real and way more relatable. That's what I really liked about it. I'm mad that it took me so long. I didn't have time to sit down and read a book. And also it's super important for you guys to know the back of this book. The quotes, the reviews are hilarious. Damn Daniel, that kid from the Damn Daniel video. Excellent, but I'm deducting 1 point for technical merit. The Russian judge. There has never been a gay man as witty and well-liked, the ghost of Oscar Wilde. It's that humor that makes you pick up the book, and then you read the whole story, and Adam becomes a very much more real person. I mean, he is a real person, but like, you know, I don't know him personally. I mean, we are best friends now because he gave me a hug and I have a picture with him, but whatever. So I do recommend reading this. It is a success story, obviously. Adam succeeded in achieving a lot of his dreams, and with what he's using his voice for now is amazing. So definitely go pick up Beautiful on the Outside with this beautiful cover. I mean, you can't not, right? Oh God. My pile of books is going to fall over. Those are the 12 books that I read in October and November. Okay, announcement time. So if you don't know, I am participating in the Jingle YA giveaway. 8 other authors of these books here. All those books. And if you go right now to www.ashportarchives.com, you can submit your entries for winning a copy of all of those books, including mine. Giveaway ends December 15th, so go ahead and just start putting in your entries. I think you can have up to like 24 if you want copies of our books. Go do it. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful time. Thank you guys who are new to the channel and who joined me during the crazy time of NaNoWriMo and all that happened on all those live streams there. Hashtag NanoHost. If you have any further questions or comments, you can leave them down below or on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. And I'll see you next time, cuties. Bye! I just poked myself in the eye, but bye!